What's up guys, this is Jay from Encounter Wargaming, and today we're going to begin a new playlist for you guys. I'm calling it Relics of the Dark Age. So basically, I've been playing this game for about 20 years now, and so has Adam, which is awesome, because both of us have seen the game, as well as the hobby, evolve a lot over the last 20 years. Now, I personally started playing in 2nd edition 40k. That was where I got drawn into this awesome hobby that we all love and share. And I guess even though the game has improved over the last 2 decades, it's also changed a lot over the last 2 decades. I still, deep inside me, have an affinity for, I guess, the era of gaming that, of course, I started in. So even prior to that, I really like the old stuff because, especially with Games Workshop's games, they've always had a bit of a comical personality to them. At least they did even more so a couple decades ago. They've become a lot more serious. I guess 40k has become a lot more dark and grim, even though it's always been the grim darkness of the far future. The only real comic relief left in the game being the orcs. That, the comical side, as well as the grim darkness of the far future, sort of somewhere in between, is kind of where I fell into this awesome hobby. Also with the orcs, which is awesome. But anyway, since in the last 20 years, I've amassed kind of a rather large collection of a lot of the out-of-print books and box sets, a few of the old school miniatures. I actually still have all my 2nd edition orcs, which is awesome. I recently discovered a rather large community on Facebook. There's an Old Hammer group and a Middle Hammer group, and I thought it was amazing that there was so many people out there on social media that share the same affinity for the old school stuff as I do. I guess for the same reasons. I mean, call it nostalgia, call it being stuck in your ways, if you want to call it that, but a lot of us still really dig the old school stuff, and that's what I wanted this series to be. I'm going to give a shout out to the Facebook Old Hammer and Middle Hammer community. I love seeing your posts all the time, guys, and I want to help contribute to that by sort of showing off my own collection too. So, without further ado, to start this series, I want to show you guys my copy of Warhammer 1st edition. Yeah, that's right. The start of it all. So here it is, Warhammer, the mass combat fantasy role-playing game. That's interesting to note, guys. Warhammer, though today operates more like what we would consider a miniature game, or even in the same vein as like historical games, where historical games are more like army versus army, as opposed to character versus character. Basically, Warhammer has its roots in things like D&D and games like that. I mean, that's kind of I'm sure the creators of it were, D&D players or fans, or at the very least, fantasy nuts. So, anyway, that's kind of where it has and they still have role-playing elements to the game, like the whole characteristics thing, and rolling dice to determine what happens. That comes to us from role-playing games. So anyway, I'm rambling. Let's open this guy up. So the box is not in the best condition, but honestly, for the price I got it for, totally worth it, because you just can't get your hands on this stuff anymore. So here we go. Nice bubble wrap. I like that, because really the important part is these 3 books. 1, 2, 3. We've got Volume 1, Tabletop Battles. Here, I'm just going to flip this over. Volume 1, Tabletop Battles. Volume 2, all the rules for magic, complete magic system, as well as all the spells and wizards, and volume 3, characters. So as you can see, the book about characters and the book about magic is just as thick as the actual core rules themselves. That's the crazy part. Check out the artwork, guys. How crazy is that? The 80s. This little goblin guy here. Hilarious. I assume he's supposed to be a familiar, but clearly early iterations of goblins. We've got undead, we've got chaos. Boom. Amazing. Clearly those are chaos or marauders or undead or something like that. So let's open this up. Now, for us book collectors out here, this page is the most important page. Now this one was published a very long time ago, so probably doesn't have as much details as most of the first pages of these books, but this is the important part that I always look for, the copyright date. 1983, Games Workshop Limited, printed in Great Britain. So, Richard Priestley. Hilarious, right? That's Rick Priestley. John Blanche for the art. Awesome. These were the guys that created Warhammer, guys. Let's take a look through here. Printed on a dot matrix printer. Talk about dating itself there. How crazy is that, right? Look at the text. See if I can get in closer for you guys here. Look at this text. They just don't make them like they used to, huh? So anyway. Keep flipping. Look at the artwork here too. Everything's like pencil sketches and movement, difficult ground, crossing obstacles, charges, running away, all the rules for your formations, ranks, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of sad that they got rid of that stuff in fantasy recently, because guaranteed up until, you know, this Age of Sigmar revolution that's happened, guaranteed most of the rules that are in this edition are the core rules that have lasted through right to 8th edition Warhammer and still exist in 40k. Just the basics: stupidity, morale, shooting, all the characteristics, ranges, modifiers. Still, you know, still sort of the way the game had operated up until recent. Wounds, saving throws, and here we go, combat. But with a sequence, initiative levels, initiative 5, initiative 2, initiative 6. Wow, elves are initiative 6. Crazy. A basic elf, initiative 6, whereas a man's initiative 3. And a halfling, for some reason, is initiative 5. Crazy. Now, I'm looking at that from a current framework. Obviously, I didn't play fantasy in this edition because I would have been a baby. Well, when this actually came out, I was not born yet. I am a 1984 baby, so this book is older than I am. How crazy is that? There we go, guys. Advanced rules. And then getting into battles. Alright, just skirmish formations, skirmishers, orders. Fighting in dungeons. Warhammer Quest was a big game to come out of both sort of, I guess, the D&D community and this starting Warhammer community. They later came out with Warhammer Quest, which was your dungeon version of Warhammer. But I guess back then they didn't have that, so they had rules for dungeons, because of course you want to appeal to that role-playing market. Flying creatures. The Ziggurat of Doom. The Dwarf Strangle. It strands an ancient ziggurat. Awesome. Thorgrim. Goblins. Awesome. So I bet they hadn't even come up with the idea of Chaos Dwarfs yet. Poison, regeneration, humanoid monsters, sea elf, wood elf, night elf, crazy. They weren't dark elves either. Hobgoblins, goblins, lizard men, menfish. Menfish! It's amazing what you find when you look at this old stuff, eh? Ogres, dragons. Boom, there's all the rules. Some cool cover art. Let's check out the magic. Let's see the way magic used to work back then. Okay, we got a complete magic system with spells and wizards. Again, Text by Richard Hollowell, Brian Ansell, and Richard Priestley. Artwork by John Blanche. Sorry if you're watching Rick Priestley. I find it funny that it says Richard here just because you've always been known as Rick otherwise. So here we go. Mastery levels. Mastery levels. Still the way it is. Well, it wasn't in 40k for quite some time, but now they brought that back with 6th and 7th. Of course, coming from 8th edition fantasy, like I say. The core rules, more or less, have always been the same for fantasy, which is why, I guess, the entire community freaked out when they came out with Sigmar. I mean, it almost imploded itself. Luckily, it's doing better now, but this is where it comes from. This is where it comes from, guys. So for all you guys who are new Sigmar fans that are watching, this is where it really comes from. So here we go. Random generation of spells, determining your mastery level, determining your constitution. Spells, detect hidden doors, fireball, wind blast. Crazy. Really shows the role-playing elements. But this game was not only a mass combat game, can also be used as a great dungeon crawler game. It would be cool to actually try out these rules with some models just to see how it used to work back then. Detecting objects. Hammer hand. Crazy. That's actually a spell in 40k still to this day. Or protection. Curse of repugnance. Visibility. Time to prepare. Cap of Darkness as a talisman. Spell level 3. Energy level 8. Crazy. Way more complicated than Magic has ever been since. Look at the characteristics. Again, 8th edition fantasy. Move, weapon skill, ballistic skill, strength, toughness, wounds, initiative, attacks. Add leadership and armor save. It's been the same characteristics. For 40k, just take out movement, add leadership and armor save. The same characteristics have stayed 30 years later. The core is still the same. Necromancy. Summoning the undead, restoring life. Enchanted objects. Awesome. Just really want to show you guys this quickly. I guess that's as detailed as I can really get without wasting too much time. And the characters section. Its own book, like I say, just as thick as the rules or the magic. Some cool artwork here. Again, everything's like pencil sketches, which I think is awesome, just like ink drawings. Ink shading, just black and white, because they couldn't do color pages back then. Well, they could, but they were probably when it's stupid expensive. We were talking about the early 80s here, so we're like a step out of the 70s. And again, on a dot matrix printer, which was probably like state-of-the-art technology back then. Now we got all kinds of crazy graphics and 3D stuff we can do. It's just crazy to see where it all comes from, you know? Alignments, good, evil, avarice, and hunger. Huh. Avarice characters have no experience. Self-sacrifice, huh. Crazy. Good, neutral, evil, avarice, and hunger. Maybe they're trying to get back to that with the whole order, chaos, death, and destruction. Risk of death. Example. Some badass skull! Yeah! Creating adventures. This is actually like playing the game. Encounter charts. Laborer, mercenary. Woodlands, ice wastes, mountains, deserts. All kinds of random terrain features. A giant frog. Crazy. Subterranean creatures. Table 3, orcs, goblins, trolls, ogres, werewolves. God, you could do anything with the game back then. Crazy. Even though these books are so tiny, though, it would probably take you hours to play through any of these rules. I love it, though. Look at this stuff. This is awesome. Look at Stonehenge. River, Red Wake. Demezel Hold, Cinder Island, crazy. And that's that. Same artwork on the back of all 3 books. Awesome artwork on the front. In an amazing little box. Love it. Here's the back for you guys. Just showing 3 books, credits. Brian Ansell, Richard Hollowell, and Richard Priestley. So there it is, guys. My first edition of Warhammer. This is where it all started. So I hope the Old Hammer community enjoyed that. So stay tuned for the next episode if you like this Old Hammer stuff. And I'm going to show you the expansion for it. Forces of Fantasy, a Warhammer supplement. So enjoy that, and until our next encounter.
Like a monkey in a rocket on his way back home.